Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today, this video is going to be a little bit different than most of my usual content because today I want to talk about a program that I use when making music that's not really well known, but it's really cool. And that program is VCV Rack. Now, for those who don't know what VCV Rack is, it's basically free software that focuses on modular synthesis. Now hold up, what the heck is modular synthesis? In the world of music production, especially in the EDM and electronic scene, a lot of the sounds and the sound design that goes into a lot of these songs, the way that they're made is that some person would have a MIDI keyboard like this one, and they hit the notes and play the chords and everything, and it runs those signals. Their computer will run those MIDI signals into plugins, which are basically virtual synthesizers. A few that I can name off the top of my head would be Sylenth, Serum, Citrus from FL Studio, which I use a lot. All of that is great. However, some of those synthesizers can be pretty confining as far as to what they can actually do, because there's only a certain set number of knobs that affect different parameters of the sound, like how long the sound will take to grow into maximum volume, how fast it decays, how long it sustains, and things like that. And while you can get so much variety in sounds from just one plugin, sometimes that isn't enough for some people. That's where modular synthesis comes in. To put it simply, modular synthesis is basically creating your own synthesizer from scratch. So when building a modular system, most artists would have some kind of rack or case that is powered by an external power supply, and then they would buy little tiny individual modules, which are different components of a synthesizer, whether it be a sound source or a gate that determines how long the sound would last, or a sequencer that tells the sound generator what note to play, things like that. Once all of your modules are assembled and drilled onto the case and powered up with the power supply, you would have these modules interact with each other by patching them together with cables, instrument cables. Because of these patch cables, a sound can be modified in all kinds of different ways, giving you much more possibilities in sound design than a normal VST plugin could offer. Unfortunately, however, just like anything in music, modular synthesis is extremely expensive. Some modules can run up to upwards of $200, $300, $400 plus dollars. Thankfully, an awesome software developer named Andrew Belt created VCV Rack, which lets you build your own modular system on your computer absolutely for free. Now that we know exactly what modular synthesis is, let me show you the patch that created I Wanna Know You. Let's dive right in. Okay, so let's begin. Let's open an instance of VCV Rack. So obviously when you first start out, you're not going to have anything on the actual rack. By right-clicking, you can pull up a drop-down box that has all of the modules that are available to you. What's really cool about VCV is that all of the module sets are in a database where you can literally just scroll through different creators and what they have. You just pick what you want and you can download it right there on the spot, update the software, and they end up in your list. And the coolest thing is all these kits, as you can see, you come with a wide variety of modules to play around with. The greatest thing about this is that it's not just Andrew Belt who's producing all of these modules. There are a ton of third-party developers that just send in modules that are almost exact replicas of actual hardware that exists out in real life. And there are even some modules that don't even exist in real life that are super cool and they're great effects. So it's amazing what you can already do with so little in this software. So let's open up my patch that created I Wanna Know You. Okay, so here's the patch. It seems very dense when you look at it, but hopefully after I explain things, it'd become more simple and you can see how the song would be built. So in total, with all these modules, there are actually only 4 components that make up, the backbone of the song. The only things that I added in FL Studio are a couple extra cymbals, my vocals obviously, and some transition effects. But the main meat of the song comes from this patch. So there's only one melodic instrument. It would be this VCO right here. This is basically it's an oscillator. It's a sound generator, and this is what created the chords. And then as far as the drums, the main kick, the snare drum, which is actually a rim, it's a rim knock, and some claves, it's an 808 rim clave, come from these 3 modules right here. This is the Autodaf drum kit, which is pretty awesome. And controlling all of this, let's get more into the specifics now. Okay, so as far as the melodic component of the patch, everything that you hear in the chords in the background of the song is developed by this oscillator right here, this VCO F1. Normally, most VCOs only have 1 note output, but the cool thing about this one is that it has 6, and because of that, I can create chords. Now, the pitch of the actual oscillator is controlled by the amount of voltage the unit receives. So this voltage per octave section is what determines the pitch. Now, the thing that tells the oscillator what pitch to play are the sequencers. And you can designate what octave they need to be at, and you can turn these knobs that correspond to different notes, and that's what plays the synth, and it follows in some loop. These sequencers are small because they're only 4 steps, but really this was all that I needed. I just wanted a simple progression. And to make sure that everything stays in tune and stays in a key that you want it to be in, you use these quantizers right here, which is why these cables are hooked up to these individual quantizers. And this just makes sure, like I said, that everything that comes out of the VCO is in tune and it sounds good. So I I put this song in B major. I really like the key, and let's just listen to the actual sequencer. The sequencers have to be run by a clock because they don't have their own internal clock, and the clock is just what sets the beats per minute, the BPM of the song. So let's listen to the chord progression. Really cool. And it's very simple. I liked it. Okay, so that's enough of that for now. Now, there are some like variations in the song. I changed the length of the note. The length of the note is determined by these 3 modules right here, all these stages. And basically what this stage does, or these stage modules do, is that it creates a gate, and it tells the oscillator what level it's supposed to start at, what level it grows to, like where it maxes out at, and then the decay of it is this booster stage here. And I modulated, or when I recorded it live, this patch live, I messed with the level, which as you can hear, it plays the note, and the curve, which is how long it takes to decay. I messed more with the curve than I did with the level. But yes, and then the only other timbre changes within the sine waves itself is this filter. So what filters do is that they filter out frequencies that you don't want, and so sometimes the high frequencies can, even though sine waves aren't that abrasive, the high frequencies can still become really annoying. So I like to mess with this filter in a low pass filter, so only low frequencies pass through. And to demonstrate that, I apologize for the audio popping. Oh man. So as you can see, this filter messes with the cutoff, which is really cool. And that's how I used a little wobble effect at the end when it was just the chords playing and it was very sustained. So that takes care of the melodic section, or just the meat and bones of it. Now let's go to the drums, the fun part. Alright, so now that we've talked enough about the melodic component of the song, let's talk about the drums. For my computer's sake, so it doesn't crash on me, I took out all the modules that dealt with the chord synth so that I can record the screen and process the drums at the same time. So it's still all wired the same. Like I mentioned before, the drums are all powered by these three modules right here: this kick and two rim drum kits from Autodaf. One is more like a snare rim, and the other it's an 808 rim click, which sounds like kind of like a hi-hat to me. Um, like the VCO and any VCO, these drum modules need to be triggered by something. So instead of using a sequencer that has, output voltage and it tells what pitch to play, there are some other sequencers, specifically this algorithm sequencer that just deals with triggering the sound, and it doesn't have to deal with pitch or anything like that, and it's much more simple and less heavy on the computer. So each of these drum modules are linked to their own algorithm module. And instead of how these sequencers are linked to the bar of every, so every 4 beats at 120 BPM, one chord will play. Instead of clocking the drums to that, I put them at the 16th note pulse of 120 BPM, which is pretty fast, but it lends to some pretty nice grooves. So enough talking, let's actually listen to the drums. So here's the kick. So that's kind of the thing that just kind of almost stays constant. Here's a snare. A nice little answer to the response, and then just something to fill out the rhythm. And that's the main groove that kind of carries throughout the song. I added some cymbals on top of it from a couple different sample packs inside FL Studio, but this is the meat, and this is what drives the song on and on and on. Now, the one different thing that I did is that, I don't know if some of you noticed when you listen to the song, but there are some drum fills. Now, the cool thing about this specific sequencer algorithm is that it has a little mode where if you turn a little dial on it, or this switch in particular, this number 3 switch, you can randomize what the order that the notes are played in, so you don't know what you're gonna get. Now, I linked this trigger switch to that the random mode option. So as you can see, I only linked the rim click and the kick to it, and you'll get a nice little fill going. So if you had a couple bars going and you just pause it for a bit, you have a little fill there. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very random. You never know what you're gonna get. So it was cool going through these different takes and seeing what these two sequencers would pull up. And sometimes I even put instead of the kick, why not we put the random mode on the clicks? This is probably going to be very interesting. Let's try it. Nice. So it's just a nice little rhythmic variation throughout the song. So that is basically the drums in I Wanna Know You. Now, layering this sound with the synth before it, you get this. Just pretty cool, and is lended to a groove. Everything came together to make a very nice little tune. Well, everyone, that's all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this breakdown to my VCV rack patch of my newest song, I Wanna Know You. A huge announcement. For those of you that haven't been looking at my social media profiles, I've finally opened a Patreon account. By becoming a member of my Patreon community, you could have exclusive access to many perks, such as early access to all of my videos, original music downloads, shoutouts, a Patreon exclusive How I Made It video series in which I will break down all of my original music to the very bone, which will include a second part to this video and where I break down the FL Studio components of I Wanna Know You, and much, much more. All Patreon donations will go directly into improving the quality of these videos. Hopefully, with your help, I can afford a better video camera and video editing software to highly improve the quality of these tutorials and videos themselves. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. God bless.